Hi friends, thank you for joining my channel, I appreciate it. Today we're going to hear the tale of Dante and Jules. Let's begin. Chapter 1. Hey, Dante Abokum, where were you when Goldstein exploded? Ametrine asked, taking the seat across from me. They spoke with a Londoner accent and tilted their head to the left, as if seeing the world at an angle made sense. They carried a cafeteria tray with food. They handed me a cup of coffee while setting theirs down in front of them, then set before me a plate of cottage cheese and toast with marmalade, while they had an overstuffed cinnamon roll the size of most designer purses. We had bonded, both of us being exchange students. They were from London, I was from Germany. I looked up from my laptop. Thank you for the coffee, Ametrine. As to Professor Goldstein, I do not understand when he speaks. His accent is difficult. They half smiled. Even I have trouble understanding upper crust Bostonian. I think it's because they have to hold their pinkies out at just the right angle when they drink. You'd think he was the Queen Mother. Seriously, this morning, in class, when he lost the plot at Jules. I did not go to the class. Ametrine sat back, grinning. They had gossip, and they knew I would listen. Jules came in late and said something weird, the sarcastic kind. The professor exploded. I've never seen anybody get so mad. I will not tolerate disrespect from any student. What did Jules ask? Ametrine smiled and leaned their elbows on the table. He imitated Goldstein's accent, pointed pinky and all, except he was holding his iced coffee. What did he say? Sitting a little taller, Ametrine extended their left pinky. Sorry, old bean, it really wasn't my fault. It took me until 7 this morning to decipher what you said the other day. I thought it might have been Morse code, but Google Translate said it was syncopated whale song. What is syncopated whale song? Who knows, Ametrine said. Goldstein went 50 shades of scarlet. I thought his head would pop off. The man has serious anger problems. And? Ametrine sat a little taller and lowered their voice. I will not tolerate any disrespect from a student, especially one who thinks flaunting his alternate lifestyle in public is acceptable behavior. Ametrine said it like she'd eaten a sour pickle. Her tone darkened. What does that mean? I asked. Ametrine tore off a piece of their cinnamon roll and ate it. Jules was wearing a pride shirt. Take a guess. No matter where you live, there are those who have narrow minds. Jules was a little loud and vocal for my tastes, but he deserved respect. We all did. Suddenly, Jules, Ametrine, and I were on the same side. Goldstein had become a common enemy. Jules is gay, I asked, more to confirm my suspicions. Like us? Probably, Ametrine said, their tone dropping to a conspiratorial hush. Goldstein was so angry, he marched over, grabbed Jules' backpack, and dumped it. Is that illegal? Don't know. Ametrine leaned forward, dipping their spoon into my marmalade. Hope Goldstein gets fired. Guess what was in the backpack? Books. Ametrine wiped the marmalade onto their cinnamon roll. This is Jules we're talking about. 2 empty marshmallow jars, a mousetrap, some thumbtacks, a vial of homemade moon tears, and a half-eaten Snickers bar. Isn't Jules in your dorm? He's 5 rooms down from mine. He and his roommate, his name is Quincy, fight loudly. We hear them all the time. I have to wear headphones to get any work done. Ametrine chuckled, sipping their coffee. Must be nice not having a roommate. I tried the coffee, hot, with a splash of cream, just the way I like it. My former roommate had financial difficulties and left. The quiet is lonely. We used to talk about soccer teams and the World Cup. It is nice to spread out my art supplies, though. Ametrine rolled their eyes. Anyway, when Goldstein finished throwing a wobbly, he was boring as usual, kept referring to page 147, probably important for the test. What did he say? You think anybody paid attention after Goldstein went all Carmen Berzado? I paused, then met Ametrine's eyes. What are moon tears? 6-7, brother. We have to get you outside more often. Glitter and saline solution mixed together. You dump it on somebody to give them that glittery look. Make sure it's consensual, or you risk a broken nose. If you dump moon tears on somebody, you like them? Ametrine shrugged. It's club logic, I guess. You don't like Jules much, do you? I am on a 2-year student visa. I don't have time to be silly. Chapter 2. I worked in the cafeteria when I wasn't taking classes. Why did I choose the University of Utah, or even Utah? I have a cousin that lives 20 minutes away in Sugar House, and I used to live with him and his family. I see them Sundays for lunch. My father does not speak to me. He's never called. My mother sneaks a letter in the mail every other week, as if she were afraid he would find out. Father is angry because I did not follow him into the family business. I wanted art. He wanted me to be a lawyer like him, and grandfather, and my uncle, and my brother. I said no. My brain does not work like that. He was furious and kicked me out of the house and the family. Nobody can hurt you like family can. I have never told Ametrine or my cousin how much my father's rejection hurt me. That is why I came to America, to escape my father. The University of Utah has a good art department. My focus is on computer graphics. I want to work on a movie someday. We are working on ad designs for shampoo right now. I want to have a family that will be proud of me. Ametrine let me take pictures of their notes, and I sent them to my laptop before I reported for work at 11. We had to clean up after the breakfast rush and begin prepping for lunch. Pizza and burgers are the most popular, though spaghetti has a following. Many students use the salad bar, but I never do. The lettuce seems yellow, and the tomatoes are a bit squishy. I was ready for a quiet evening, listening to my favorite German band, A Sunset Diary, and working on my painting for Professor Dulcet's class. I received a text on my phone from the RA, room advisor for my dorm. Sorry for the sudden notice. Emergency room reassignment, effective immediately. Please see me as soon as possible. Chapter 3. I sent a simple, okay. As much as I hoped otherwise, I would be getting a new roommate. Would he snore? Would he bathe? Would he play awful music? Would he hate that I'm gay? My mind went through scenario after scenario, each one worse than the first. An entitled rich freshman whose mother and father dote on his every word, and he has the bank account to live the high life. Or someone who steals my food and pencils, never replacing them. Maybe I'd be lucky and it was a Tibetan monk who would prefer silence and meditate during the day. I didn't like him already. When I left work at 4, I stopped at the market to pick up some ingredients for chicken marsala on noodles. Frozen diced chicken, jar of marsala sauce, some frozen vegetables, and some rotini noodles. I walked into the dorms and took the stairs to the 3rd floor. The stairs were usually faster than the elevator because some idiot always pressed all the buttons on it, making it stop at every floor like it was a prank. My floor was to the left and 4 rooms down. The door was open. Somebody was moving in. Hope Dante doesn't mind me moving his easel, a man's voice said. It's a nice portrait. Moving in like this feels kind of wrong without him being here. Something scraped along the floor inside my room. My easel being dragged, I suppose. The air hinted of turpentine. Had they spilled it? I used it to clean my brushes. The RA was outside the door, looking in. He held a clipboard in one hand and his phone in the other. He saw me and gave me a sheepish smile. "Dante, it's good you're here. You're getting a new roommate. Have you met Jules?" Chapter 4. I peeked inside my room. All my art supplies had been ruthlessly shoved onto my bed and desk. The careful order I developed was gone. My folded clothes were flung on every surface. Piles of books filled both desks. 4 skateboards leaned awkwardly against my easel, with a sock hanging down over the half-finished portrait. Suitcases, boxes, grocery bags filled with clothes, skateboard parts, and a Buddha head. A collection of crystal clusters, a small gong, a stack of posters about American bands I'd never heard of, including one called 13 Hells. "It's a Zaurai," I whispered, looking at the horror movie before me. In the midst stood Jules, looking at some yellow paper, then at me. He winced. "Sorry about this." The thing about Jules, I had a little bit of jealousy about him. Natural curly hair, but kind of a dark blonde with light blonde highlights. And his skin, like he'd lived in Greece all his life, not like me, classic German with dark hair and winter pale skin. I never learned to ride a skateboard. Is it different than snowboards? He wore a form-fitting black tank top that hugged his skater body, black sweatpants, and a black band on his right wrist. He had a geometric African tribal tattoo on his right shoulder, the kind that stretched to above the shoulder and down past the elbow. I couldn't stop staring. Jules explained something to the RA, but he spoke so fast I couldn't understand him. I wish I could talk to people in a smooth way, not stumbling to find the right words. I wish I could understand more than every other word. Jules acted like he didn't care about the mess he made. It would take me hours to clean up. That feeling came back of my father kicking me out of my home. I told myself that it was only half kicked out this time, that the other side never belonged to me, but it stung. Just like it did when I fled home with a suitcase and my mother crying and my father folding his arms and making sure I didn't turn around. The RA interrupted my thoughts. "Due to roommate issues, I'm placing Jules here for the time being." "But you never told me," I complained. "Sorry, we're only trying to avoid a lawsuit." "Lawsuit?" I asked. Chapter 5. Jules looked at me and gave a wry grin. "Sorry, dude. Didn't mean to crash your vibe. Had no choice." "Due to some, physical issues," the RA said, "Jules needed a new room. His former roommate threatened to sue if the change wasn't made immediately. Admin made the call. Sorry." Jules used some kind of American swear word and added, "Entitled Daddy's Boy thinks he can throw around Daddy's money like it's toilet paper." "You will have to explain," I said, sighing. Getting angry at Jules would do no good. Instead, I began to reclaim the order my mother had instilled in me by organizing my art supplies first. I slowly inhaled to still my emotions. "I'd be furious if somebody moved in like this," Jules said. I began hanging shirts in the closet and said, "I choose not to be an angry man like my father. Perhaps I should be grateful. Since I've been cast out, I've learned that both anger and pride can destroy, but anger can consume like a forest fire until nothing is left." "And pride?" "It is the slow rot," I answered. "Why did you and Quincy fight?" Jules' angry voice snapped me back to the present. "Quincy didn't like living with a queer." Jules used air quotes. "Said I made him uncomfortable. And then my little accident today. I've had it with him. He's one arrogant piece of work, always thinks he's superior to me because he's straight, so I told him that if he didn't stop, I'd hit him. I did the smart thing and recorded it. Maybe I'll press charges." "What did he say?" "Let's just say he said gay men can't hit worth spit and he wasn't afraid, but he used a few derogatory terms. I hit him. Hard." "Did he shut up?" "He called the RA, and here we are." "Welcome to my room." "Thanks. With the day I've had, I need a beer. You want to come? First round's on me." Chapter 6. Just below the University of Utah campus is an underground pizza parlor. Literally underground. Located beneath the university pharmacy, it's accessible by a staircase and known for its cozy, cave-like vibe. Pie Pizzeria, commonly called The Pie, has long been hailed as one of the best pizza spots in Salt Lake City. Jules led us there. It was dark inside, like walking into a cave, only lit by the candles on the tables and a few dim lights. The fragrance of garlic and fried bread and basil was heavy and pleasant. A live band composed of a singer, a drummer, and a guitarist played loud music. A cover of an Annie Lennox song, "Here Comes the Rain Again," but with punk undertones. It made me sad because I remember the home I had lost. Annie Lennox was Mother's favorite artist. Nobody can hurt you like family can. We ordered a triple meat lover's pie, a pitcher of beer, and began talking. "I'd like your tattoo. What is it about?" I asked. Jules glanced at his shoulder. "It's an African design from the Berber tribe. Saw it on the web. Liked it. It cost nearly $3,000, but it represents me." "Did it take very long?" 3 sessions, 5 hours each." "It is very nice," I said. "Do you have any tattoos?" I shook my head. My parents didn't approve. Jules leaned back and asked, "Do your parents know you're here?" I shrugged. "My father kicked me out. I didn't want to be a lawyer. He hasn't spoken to me since. Mom writes and calls sometimes, but only when my father is not around." The intercom interrupted. In a very deep voice, it said, "Dante, your inferno with cheesy garlic sticks is sizzling and hot. Better hurry before the other denizens of the 8th Circle get it." "Somebody is a literature major," a woman at a nearby table said. "I got this, Dante," Jules said. A minute later, he returned with our pizza and garlic sticks. "You're in that class with Goldstein, right?" Jules asked, taking the first slice and folding it over a second. "I was not there today." Before taking a bite, Jules filled my mug from the pitcher. A nice, light amber beer. Its scent was warm, like toasted bread. That man gets on my nerves. He's just like Quincy, thinks he's better than the rest of us. I watched as Jules poured himself a mug, and then I said, "He is the professor, so he should know more than us, correct?" "But does he?" Jules asked. "Foundations of modern history is," I began. "Boring," Jules interrupted. "Let's get off topic for a moment. You can be honest with me. I'm the youngest of 3. I can take it. I get the feeling you don't like me much. It seems like you always avoid me in class. We hardly know each other, and it's not my fault I'm moving in. So why the cold shoulder?" The band began a new set, their song drowning out conversation for a moment. I could pretend nothing was wrong, or even lie, but Dad had taught me to be the better man. Using the best words I knew, I laid my hands on the table, looked at the pizza before us, and said, "I am here to study, hard, and make my family proud. You are—" My mind went whiteboard blank. "I am what?" Jules asked, reaching for a garlic breadstick. "I am having trouble finding the right word," I said, staring at the pizza. I peeled off a pepperoni and ate it. Some days it seems like the words flow. but there are times my brain gets tangled. Loud, obnoxious, rude, irresponsible? None of those, I replied. Selfish, stupid, foolish? You're mad because I pushed all your stuff into a mess? What? No, I said. Out with it. You are... I could say so many other things, but my heart took over where my head had failed. The heat flooded my cheeks. You are cute. Chapter 7. Jules leaned back in his chair, mouth open as if he wanted to say something. He closed it, furrowed his brows, pursed his lips, and said, Huh? Let me explain, I said, hands cradling the cold beer. I do not want there to be any awkwardness between us, but I'm afraid that... You're afraid to talk to me, but you can't keep your eyes off me? Do you always finish other people's sentences? Only the cute ones, he said, winking. Talk. I'll keep quiet, promise. I stared at my beer and began. I had not wanted to admit how I felt. I am only in America on a student visa. Jules completed my thought. And a relationship would be foolish because your visa ends next year. Can I ask you a question? Please do. It came out as more of a mumble. I cupped the quill mug in an attempt to compose myself. Jules leaned forward, his intense eyes boring into mine. You don't do casual relationships, sex by night, one-night stands, or track your body count, or anything like that, do you? No, I answered. I do not like to live that way. It feels... I don't know the English words. In German, it makes me feel like billiger Schrott. Let's play a game, Jules said, glancing around. Look around the pie and point to a billiger Schrott. The pizzeria was kept neat and tidy. The walls were dark brick covered in graffiti, decades old, layer on layer. By the entrance were posters, all cluttered together. One poster advertised a play, A Midsummer Night's Dream by William Shakespeare, that had been performed last summer during the end of June. I pointed at it. Jules read it, noticing the date. It's an old poster. It's useless junk now. Billiger Schrott, I said. For a moment I wondered why I was sad. Being in a relationship makes me useless junk because I am leaving America in a year. Jules leaned back in his chair, his jaw moved. When he spoke, it was soft. What if it didn't? If I didn't go back? Or if the relationship continued? I do not like to do American quickies. That is what you call it, right? Jules chuckled. You like long, slow relationships, the kind where people know your name, your favorite food, meet the old mom and pop for Sunday dinner. I didn't answer. Chapter 8. I woke the next morning, my head buzzing from too much beer. I looked about at the disaster that was once my organized sanctuary. I can't think in a mess like this. My mother would pray to all the saints in heaven if she saw my room. I searched for a towel, found one, and had a quick shower. The hot water cleared my head. Once dressed, I sat cross-legged on the floor, folding clothes and matching socks. I put them away, quietly, to avoid disturbing my new roommate. Jules still slept, lightly snoring, one arm flung over his eyes, the other draped off the edge of the bed. It let me look at his tattoo. Bored with putting away clothes, I grabbed my sketch pad and drew his arm, the tattoo, his sleeping profile. In sleep, his face had mellowed, seemed younger than it had yesterday. The stress had disappeared from around his eyes. I let the pencil guide my hand, lightly shading the shadow around his nose. the intricate lines of the tattoo, the soft shadow of scruff under his chin. It was a kind face, at least when he slept. That tattoo, I'd seen designs similar, but those were flat. It must have been modified to wrap around an arm. A nice arm, nicely muscled, an erotic pleasure to draw. His bed-tossed hair lay in a tattered ruin on his pillow. He loudly inhaled, shifting position, turning to face me and laying on his arm. With a new view, I sketched him again, and the part of the arm I couldn't see before. As often when I drew, my mind devolved into peace. A calm centered my thoughts. A stillness fell upon my soul. I sketched his eyes, now open and watching me, the tender curve of his chin, the complex array of the pattern on his arm, the softness of the pillow cuddling his head. He didn't move. Let me draw him. And in quiet, I began to feel. At first, I let the horror of my family's rejection surface, that final argument, the humiliation, the way defiance sparked in my soul. In spite of the pain and the chaos, I would let God guide me even if it meant to another continent, to a new life. Jewel's question from last night sparked a realization. What if I stayed in America, like my cousin did? What if I built a life here, not to spite my parents, but to prove to myself that I could do it? Yesterday, I never imagined settling here where the food was strange and the beer different. I barely spoke English. But could America, could Utah, be my home? My thoughts drifted again, away from the past. What if I found someone? What if I had a reason to stay in America, to make it my home, to make it a place I would never want to leave? The minutes passed as I drew, and it was well past 10 when I stood to stretch. I like watching you draw, Jewel said, climbing out of bed. You have a beautiful face. Show me what you drew. Chapter 9. It had been a long day at my classes. My art professor did not like my latest ad designs and had called them garbage as well as many other words I did not understand. She wanted me to start over. At work, the lasagna tray had slipped from my hands. The splatter had ruined my apron, my shirt, and my shoes. Unable to take the time to walk to my dorm, I had to wear the ruined clothes all day. It looked like one of those splatter shirts you see in American bloody movies. I doubt even my aunt could remove all the stains. With my feet aching and my soul too tired to care, I had bought a microwave potatoes and meatloaf dinner from the market. I wanted a beer, a mindless session, watching stupid American sitcoms that made no sense, and dip Oreos into chocolate sauce and lick the mess off my fingers. I kept thinking about my father. I once believed if I became good enough at art, at surviving, he'd be proud of me, at what I could do. But he would only acknowledge me if I followed him and continued the business, like my brother. Nothing I did mattered. Amatarine had texted me something, but I left it unread. Later, I would text them back. I still had a dorm room to clean, a test to study for, and a paper to research, not to mention the painting. All I wanted was sleep. I trudged up the stairs, wondering how a body could be so tired. Life had seemed so good this morning. I had even researched ways of converting my student visa to a work visa, or even an immigrant visa. My cousin had told me someone to contact. They had helped him. I paused at the door to my room. A scent stirred memory and was divine. just like Mama's chicken soup. She made every Sunday, and we'd sit down right after church. She'd invite my uncle and his family, sometimes the neighbors. Grandfather would boast about fishing, and Dad would complain about the coaches in the German national soccer team. The breath of home. Germany wasn't my home any longer. Maybe this could be. I entered. In a crock pot, Jules had made a thick soup, cubed chicken, chickpeas, freshly chopped carrots, broccoli, onions, garlic, and zucchini. The aroma wrapped around me slow and steady, like it had been cooking all day. He smiled at me, his gray tank leaving his arms bare and showcasing the tattoo. Least I could do to make up for the mess. Hope you're hungry, because there should be enough for lunch tomorrow. No baked brownies are chilling in the mini fridge. They haven't quite set. You did all this just to say you're sorry? He nodded, half shrugged. What can I do to help? I asked, setting my backpack next to the door. Jules folded his arms, his eyebrows narrowing, but his eyes glittered. Since I cooked, you do dishes. Your desk is the cleanest. Let's eat there. It was while we were eating that the text from an unknown number arrived. The telephone number started with a +49, and the text was in German. At Jules' curious look, I translated it from German. This is your father. It is time for you to give up your silly fantasies. You will come back home and fulfill your duties to the family. Grandfather is setting to retire soon, and you will take his place. Since you have wasted your studies on art, you will have a lot of work ahead of you. Chapter 10. He's laying it on with a trowel, Jules whispered. My father is from, how do you say, of the traditional school. I reread the text, then set my phone upside down. Doesn't your dad have your number? I was very mad at him, and I blocked him. Jules smirked. Good call. What are you going to do? I do not want to respond, but that would be rude. Dude, it's called ghosting, and it means some people are not worth the effort. Don't reply, at least not today. Take time to think about it. He will expect me to jump with both feet. Jules smiled, but it was without any humor. How long has it been since he contacted you? I have been in America for a little more than a year. He kicked me out 6 months before that. Jules leaned in and whispered, He ghosted you for 18 months? I'd make him wait that long before you replied. Just saying. We ate, talking about Goldstein, about my drawings. The fudge and soup are delicious, thank you, I mumbled, my eyes barely half open. Go to bed, Jules said. Your dad can wait, the dishes can wait, and even Goldstein. I lay down, and Jules rubbed my shoulders, easing me into relaxation. It wasn't many minutes before I fell into a troubled sleep. In my dreams, I dreamt of my dad as a huge bear with black leathery skin, demanding that I be a good son and obey him, or something bad will happen. Chapter 11. My phone rang. From across the room, Jules, lying in his bed, swore. Who'd call at 1:30 in the morning? I reached to the shelf at the head of my bed and grabbed my phone. It wasn't plugged in. I sat up to untangle it and answer. It was the same number as before, and it started with a +49, the international code for Germany. Something itched in the back of my brain. This can't be good. Uh-huh, I said in English. At least I think that's what I said. The man on the other end answered in German. Hello, Dante? Yeah, I said, recognizing the voice. My stomach chilled. An emotion filled me I had never felt before. Hate, fear, disgust, combined together. It was my father. I didn't say anything. Dante, are you there? Answer me. I am your father. I had been taught that parental respect was a gift from God, yet all I felt was loathing for this man who had cast me out of the family. Why did he even call? My hand shook, but I said nothing. Dante, it is your father. The voice was gruff, insistent, the voice of my childhood. Jules sat up and turned the lamp on. He stared at me, eyes wide. He mouthed, Bad news? I nodded. Disrespecting your parents was considered a sin, but my father had cast me out. I said nothing. I know you can hear me. You will come home and... Jules took the phone from me and hung up. He sat beside me, lightly hugging me. My heart beat so loud I'm sure Jules could hear it. I did not know I could feel so dark. I whispered, Is it okay to hate your father? Talk to me. I explained to Jules about what had happened, about my arrival in America, about how I felt. Jules listened, holding my hand. The phone rang. 5 minutes later. +49, the same number. I answered. It was my father. This time, I didn't stay silent. Before he could even speak, I yelled, You will never contact me again. Dante, I will never forgive you for what you did. You do not control me. You are not my family. I am turning my phone off now, and when the store opens, I am changing my number. Know this, you have failed as a father, and I never want to see you again. Goodbye. Wait, Dad yelled, but I was faster. I turned my phone over and slid the back off and removed the battery. I did not know what to feel. Something inside me had withered away, leaving only the calm at the center of the storm. I felt numb, empty. Jules brought me a soda from our mini fridge. He let me talk until we both fell asleep on my bed. Chapter 12. I woke, unusually warm. Jules and I had fallen asleep in my little bed. He lay on my arm, and it had gone to sleep. Still, I didn't want to move. If I did, I might begin to feel, and I was comfortable being numb. A soft knock at the door. Dante, are you all right? Amatrine's voice. I'm worried. I've been calling all morning. I grabbed my phone, only then remembering I had taken the battery out. The sun peeked around the curtains. What time was it? The lock clicked. The door opened. The R.A. walked in first, followed by Amatrine. They saw Jules and me in the same bed. The R.A. averted his eyes. Amatrine tried not to giggle. Chapter 13. I didn't arrive at the phone store until after work. They let me trade in my old phone for a new one and a new number. It only took an hour. Once done, I brought tacos to the dorm to split with Jules. We talked. Researched how to change my student visa to a work visa. I called my cousin to update him with the new number, and he promised he wouldn't give it out. My father had already called him, shouting. My cousin's response? Before he could say anything, his wife took the phone and said, I always thought Germans were a wonderful, patient people. You give them a bad name. Don't call back. Like a typical American movie, she hung up. My cousin was laughing when he told me. Chapter 14. Over the next 2 weeks, Jules and I became friends. We survived Goldstein's class and looked forward to finals. Amatrine kept teasing us about the wedding. They never believed us that falling asleep together was innocent and not romantic. They always nodded in agreement and then asked if they could be the gender-neutral vow witness. I'd been in contact with the social worker who had helped my cousin. Jules worked on his laptop across the room while I filled out online forms. The process was both simple and frustrating. My passport and visa counted as official documents, but they recommended I have a copy of my birth certificate. I filled out that form, noting it would require up to 6 weeks. The next form required something different. Jules, may I list you as being my emergency contact? He stood up from his laptop, walked over, and leaned over my shoulder to read the screen. This doesn't mean we're engaged or anything, but we'll have to be roommates for a while. Maybe I had requested too much. I looked at him, hoping to read his face. His eyes flickered as he read the screen. The soft scent of him near me excited me. I like having you as a roommate, I said. He hit refresh on the screen. Our fingers brushed. I'd be honored, Jules said. He blushed. I'm pretty sure I blushed. We lingered, our fingers playing with each other. My breath deepened, his quickened. I better get back to my paper, he mumbled. Yeah, I said. I watched him return to his desk, and I tried to focus on the online forums. A text from my cousin arrived. Call your brother, now. He needs to speak with you. It's 4 a.m. in Germany. An emergency. Before I dialed my brother's number, I went to settings and disabled caller ID. I dialed my brother's number. He picked up on the second ring. Dante, is that you? There's no number. Yes. What is wrong? Mother walked out on Dad last night, saying she won't stay married to a man who abandons his own children. Dad's on my couch, drunk and hysterical. Chapter 15. Jules walked over and hugged me from behind. Bad news? I nodded and switched to English so Jules would understand. And to make a point to my brother, I have a new family here in America. People accept me, and someday I will be an artist. What do you mean? My brother asked, switching to English. I took hold of Jules' hand. It will be a very long time before I come back to Germany. You followed in our father's wishes. You deal with him. I will not submit to his hatred any longer. You need to come back. The family needs you. No. Our father made his decision. Now he must live with the events that follow. Goodbye. I hung up. Jules tossed me my shoes. Let's go get a beer. You look like you need it. On the way to the pie, I held his hand. He didn't pull away, but pulled me closer. Chapter 16. That night, we shared a bed, and every night thereafter. The end. Thank you, my friends, for joining me. I'm Gio. Peace, and we'll see you next time. I love you all.